Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. Before we dive into today's major story, please remember to like this video, hit the subscribe button, and tap the notification bell so you don't miss any update. All right, let's get straight into it. Today, we have a developing story. The lawyer, Aloy Ejimakor, who has been widely known for his role representing Nnamdi Kanu, has been arrested and charged to court in Abuja. The event has stirred strong reactions across legal circles, civil society, and social media. Let's walk through exactly what happened, what it means, and why you should care. The incident took place during a demonstration bearing the hashtag Free Nnamdi Kanu Now in Abuja. Protesters gathered around the Unity Fountain and made their way toward the Federal Secretariat. According to the police, the demonstration infringed a court order, disrupted public traffic, and used war chants, which the security team says warranted arrests. Among the persons detained was lawyer Aloy Ejimakor. The police have formally charged him and others with offenses including disobedience of a court order, inciting disturbance, and disturbing public peace. Court proceedings moved quickly. At a magistrate court in Kuje, the presiding magistrate refused to take pleas from the defendants, in this case because some of those arrested lacked legal representation at that moment. As a result, the court ordered that Aloy Ejimakor and the others be remanded to Kuje Prison until the next hearing date. That means they remain in custody pending further court action. Now, let's talk about the differing sides of the story. On one hand, the authorities argue that any gathering which defies a court order, blocks traffic, or creates public disorder must be regulated. They say this ensures safety, upholds the rule of law, and protects citizens. The police frame their actions as lawful enforcement of existing orders. On the other hand, protesters and human rights advocates say this was a peaceful demonstration, a legitimate exercise of the constitutional right to assemble to speak up for a cause. They claim the police response was heavy-handed and may have infringed on the right to protest. Some witnesses reported the use of tear gas, aggressive crowd control, and the arrest of bystanders who were not necessarily part of the main event. Given that Aloy Ejimakor is a lawyer actively involved in the ongoing case of Nnamdi Kanu, this brings an added layer of complexity. Lawyers are citizens with rights to participate in civic matters, but at the same time, when they represent clients in high-profile matters, they must consider professional responsibilities. Ethical guidelines say that lawyers should avoid actions that might interfere with court proceedings or create the perception of improper influence. So the fact that a counsel was present at the protest raises questions. Was this legitimate advocacy, or did it cross a line? The government spokesman has already indicated that disciplinary action may be considered. Let's pause here for a moment. If you are following the story and believe in the right to peaceful protest, type in the comments below now. And also tell us how you feel about lawyers joining protests while their client's case is still active. And while you do that, don't forget to hit like and subscribe, because I'll be reading your comments and sharing the best ones in the next update. Returning to the story. This case doesn't operate in a vacuum. The full backdrop is the ongoing trial of Nnamdi Kanu and the broader movement surrounding his detention and treatment. That issue itself is politically charged and sensitive. Supporters say it's a matter of justice and human rights. Opponents say it's a matter of national security. Because of that, protests around his case tend to draw heavy security presence and heighten detention. So when we see a lawyer arrested at such a protest, it sends ripples into legal practice, public rights, and political discourse. What are the potential longer-term consequences of this arrest? First, for the legal profession. This may spark discussions within the Nigerian bar on how far lawyers can go in public activism, especially when representing clients in contentious matters. Will the bar review codes of conduct? Will we see internal disciplinary hearings? Next, for protest rights. If the state appears to lock down assemblies and detain participants routinely, civil society will raise red flags about freedom of expression and the right to assemble. This might trigger legal challenges. Finally, for public trust and political engagement. When citizens see lawyers detained or activism constrained, it can build either resentment or calls for reform. So watch how the government frames the next steps and how advocacy groups respond. Now, if you're just tuning in and wondering, what does this mean for you? Well, if you are involved in activism, legal practice, or are simply a citizen who cares about your rights, this case highlights how state power, protest rights, and legal representation can intersect. If you are a lawyer, you might ask, where does professional duty end and activism begin? If you are a citizen, you might ask, how far can I participate in public protest before I risk arrest? These are important questions. Before I wrap up, I want to remind you again, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you'll get updates when we post the follow-up to this story. I'll be covering the next hearing date for Aloy Ejimakor, any statements from the police or human rights groups, and how this develops in court and on the streets. If you witnessed the protest in Abuja or have a lawyer's perspective on this kind of case, drop a comment below. Share your thoughts respectfully and clearly. I'll feature selected comments in the next video. Now, as we continue this story, let's look deeper into how everything connects. Because honestly, this whole situation isn't just about one lawyer or one protest. It's part of something bigger that's been building for a while, and it shows the kind of tension we have right now between security, freedom, and justice in Nigeria. Please, if you're still watching, take a second to like this video and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow so we can keep bringing you these updates in real time. So here's where it gets even more interesting. The arrest of Aloy Ejimakor has sparked reactions not only from supporters of Nnamdi Kanu, but also from legal experts, civil rights groups, and ordinary Nigerians. Many people see it as a worrying sign when a lawyer, simply exercising his civic right, gets remanded. Others argue that the law should be applied equally, that even lawyers must obey public order regulations like everyone else. You can already see the online divide. Some say he was just speaking for justice, while others say rules are rules, and if the police gave warnings, everyone should comply. It's important to remember that Nigeria's constitution guarantees the right to peaceful assembly, but that right also comes with boundaries. For example, when public order or safety is involved. The problem is always in how those boundaries are interpreted and enforced. That's why cases like this matter. They show us how the system handles sensitive protests, especially those tied to political or security issues. Now, let's talk about Aloy Ejimakor himself for a moment. He isn't just any lawyer. He has been part of Nnamdi Kanu's legal team for years, often speaking publicly about constitutional rights and due process. He's known for his calm but firm approach, and many of his interviews have focused on fair trial, human rights, and the rule of law. So for someone like him to be arrested while participating in a peaceful call for his client's release adds emotional weight to this story. It isn't just another arrest, it's symbolic. It tells us how deep the division runs between the state and supporters of the movement. And speaking of symbolism, think about the location. Unity Fountain, Abuja. That place has become the unofficial ground for demonstrations, a space where activists gather to make their voices heard. Over the years, we've seen everything from our NSAS marches to rights rallies happening there. So when another high-profile protest unfolds in the same spot, the authorities are extra alert. Security around the area was tight even before the protest began, and eyewitnesses say police vans were already parked nearby, anticipating large crowds. The protest itself reportedly started peacefully, people holding placards, chanting slogans like "Free Nnamdi Kanu now," and calling for justice. But as numbers grew and movement spread toward the Federal Secretariat, the situation changed. Police claimed that traffic was obstructed and that participants ignored earlier warnings. That's when arrests began. Among those rounded up were activists, journalists, and of course, Aloy Ejimakor. Some of those detained were released later. But key figures, including Ejimakor, later faced formal charges. Now, let's think about what happens next. The court process will take its usual path: hearings, arguments, and eventually a decision on whether the charges hold up. The defense will likely argue that the demonstration was peaceful, that there was no violence, and that their arrest violated constitutional rights. The prosecution will argue that they disobeyed existing court orders and disturbed public peace. Both sides will present evidence, and the magistrate will decide whether the case should proceed or be dismissed. This is where Nigerians will be watching closely, because the outcome could set an example for future protests. If the case goes forward and results in penalties, it might discourage future public demonstrations. If it's dismissed, it could strengthen the idea that peaceful protests must be protected at all costs. Either way, the decision will carry political and social impact. Now, let's step back for a second. Whenever we have incidents like this, we see how divided people become. Some say, let's not break the law. The police are doing their job. Others say, peaceful protest is not a crime. But maybe the real issue is balance. How do we keep order without silencing people's voices? How do we let people protest without turning it into chaos? That balance is what every democratic society struggles with, and Nigeria is no different. Please, if you are still here, hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't done that yet. It's free and it keeps you connected to the next update. Also, leave a comment. Do you think the arrest of Aloy Ejimakor was fair or excessive? I really want to know what you think